I think that we're all interconnected, that we're all, and I, like William James, believe that this collection of neurons is not just a transmitter, but also a receiver. And it's not just these neurons. I mean, some studies suggest that the cardiac tissue is 40 to some 70% neurological tissue. You can look at how it developed from embryonic tissue. So this is a brain too. It's all a brain. But I think we're meaning-making machines, and so we struggle to try to give meaning to this. Why I go into all the biochemistry is because of my students. They'll say things like, oh, it was my intuition. How do you know? I'm not saying that I don't agree with them. I mean, I've had these interesting experiences as well where I do energy work and craniosacral and body work with people, and I pick up things, and I don't know if it's true. But so I always want to question myself, how do I know these things? How do I know? And so that we can make claims. And Dr. Standish has said many times is that many of us physicians, we overrate our successes. You didn't say it that way, but something works. Well, see, it's because of this. We do that all the time because we grasp for meaning. But I do think that there's this interconnection. When we're talking about decreasing the noise, I agree. It's all about intention, attention, and focus. You know, when I focus on the sensations in my knee, everything changes. And I'm not focusing on something else. If I say, don't look at the door back there, don't look at the door, we all want to look at the door. If I say, I'll give you $100 to count the lines in your hand, or to the students, I'll pay off your student loans if you count all the lines. You know, they're there. It doesn't matter if somebody's at the door. They're like, I don't care. And they're looking. So I think that's part of the mind. It's part of the mind for me. And I'm just thinking about the other aspect of this is like, I think many doctors, or all of us, we hear these stories and we think, oh, we can get rid of pain, we can heal our spine. Oh, you know, I can walk again. And so then I think that a lot of us then say that's the goal, to never have pain, to never suffer, to not have illness. And I don't subscribe to that. I mean, that would be great. I don't want to suffer. And I think suffer is a mental aspect. It's the meaning you give to something. But I remember Dr. Standish and I worked on a study with UW on end-of-life care, hospice. I went to the bedside of hospice patients, saw over 500 patients, going to their bedside, doing meditation, and we looked at the quality of death. And I would go to visit them until they died. And I remember the last patient that I saw in his house, and he said he had never meditated, he doesn't know anything about meditation, and he had multiple myeloma and a lot of lung infections. He was on oxygen, and he couldn't breathe. And I went and I said, all we're going to do, what is meditation? You could say that it's connecting to the divine, it's connecting to the breath. And I always love to talk about how in Greek, inspiration means in spiritus. Many people have heard me say this, breathing in spirit, prana. All these traditions talk about God breathed life into you. And so I would focus his attention. He focused with his mind on his breath. And like the second session, I mean, he was breathing every day, 24 hours a day. No wonder he's anxious. No wonder he has things. I can tell you about the biochemistry of breathing that way. And halfway through this meditation session, he went, and my first thought was, oh no, oh no.
I'm too late.
Meditation, we helped him get to the, and he breathed, and then at the end, but no expression on his face, and he comes out of the meditation, we ring my bell, and I said, how are you doing? He said, do you see that? Do you see that? For the first time, I'm not anxious, I don't have pain, and I'm breathing okay. And it was an amazing experience for him. And so I say that in my nomenclature, in my classification system, it was using the mind, connecting to spirit, connecting to the breath, integrating all of it. And what was I doing? I wasn't trying. I tell him, I don't care about your pain, to get rid of the symptoms. I'm here to be present to this one thing right now, and everything
I come out of a tradition within the Episcopal Church that is known for its way of worshiping using texts. using a prayer book. Great emphasis put on intellectual curiosity and intellectual discovery. In other words, a lot of emphasis on the mind. And there are some people who will go to many Episcopal churches, but not all, and will say, there's no movement. There's no dancing. People seem to be rather rigid in their body posture. And some even refer to them as God's frozen chosen. And I think that's right. And over 25 years of serving within that particular institution, I've obviously been trained to really appreciate and engage in intellectual activity. What I've come to appreciate is that there's a real difference between that and a way of being mindful about who we are as individuals, how we are in the world, how we receive one another, which I think the song that Steve had us sing back and forth to each other captured in a very wonderful way at the start of this evening. I was at a conference this weekend, and over lunch sat next to a 17-year-old who was telling us about the hip-hop poetry championship that he's going to be participating in at the Moore Theater in Seattle in March, hoping to go on to a national hip-hop poetry contest. And I have to confess that I didn't know much about hip-hop.
What?
So I ended up changing the workshop that I was going to that afternoon to a hip-hop poetry workshop. Now, I would not have put poetry, which is for me a great spiritual resource and a place of challenge as well as nurture and of sustenance, I would not have put poetry together in the same phrase with hip-hop. And I listened later that afternoon to this 17-year-old man get up on a stage in front of 350 people and do some hip-hop poetry that was a concise, magnificent use of the English language, engaging his body, and watched his colleagues in a whole variety of body movements. And so you're probably wondering why I'm telling you this story.
I like it.
I wish that I could give some sample of that.
Oh, I do too.
When it's time to empty the room, ask me. I say all that because over the years I've been very aware of people coming to seek spiritual guidance and to enter into a spiritual mentoring relationship, often coming with an opening question or a presenting question of, help me to understand, or help me to get my mind around X, Y, or Z. And I've come to believe that that's ultimately not the correct question. The question is how to be mindful and how to be aware and awake to the many parts of who we are, which are about our body and our spirit. And I believe that soul is part of that. So I suppose my answer to you is that I really see a path of integration that many of us intentionally or mindfully walk about becoming more integrated in terms of our emotions, our intuition, our intellectual capacity, and our physical reality.